Okay, good morning, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Hopefully you enjoyed that extra day. I know it's hard to come back on a 4-day week because it almost feels like it's longer than shorter, huh? I'm going to share this screen just in case you need it. Dr. Dave, tell me if this is not correct, but I think this is what we did before. So you're going to go to educlimber.com. Your district ID number is going to be 2031, and you will need to put a username and password in to log in.
Your username is your first name dot last name, all lowercase, nothing else, no @ sign, no Osceola schools, just first name dot last name. And if you have two last names like Cruz Santiago, there's a space between them.
And I'll give everybody a minute just to make sure you're good with login. If you can't log in for some reason, please send it to us in chat so we can help you. As you know, we're going to be interactive with this the whole time. So you definitely want to log in, get situated in there. I'll do a quick review of what we did from the last Tuesday. I want to go over incidents and attendance just a little bit more, just briefly. And then we will go ahead and jump into tags and collections today. So we may even have a little extra time at the end. Definitely send me questions through chat. Use that parking lot. So we'll go over all that real quick as well. Let me give you just a minute more to log in. All right, thank you, Gidget, for letting me know. All right, let me go ahead and good morning. I'm going to go ahead and send this link just in case. That way you have it handy. I'm going to send it to you in chat. And so just a reminder, you've got all of these in this Google Drive folder. The recordings are there as well. Our parking lot is there. So I've been able to answer most of the questions. I'm not going to say they're all really complete answers. Some of them are basically saying that there's a little bit of wait time on some things, but certainly use this parking lot as you have questions today. Please use chat. I'm okay with you interrupting me because that's part of this. You're not really interrupting me. You're just giving me a chance to take a breath, to be honest, because again, it's harder when we're not in person and I don't get to see you and really know where you're confused or not. So please either just jump on in, ask your questions, put it in chat, or go ahead and put it on the parking lot. You do also have the agenda. So again, we're going to go over tagging and collections today, but I am going to do a quick review with incidents and attendance. I felt like we didn't get enough time to really go through that just to make sure you're okay with it. And then you do have your slide deck. And remember, most everything we're going to do is going to be live. So with that being said, good morning again. Hopefully we've got a few more people on there. Yep. So it looks like we probably have pretty much everybody. So it's good to see you all. Well, it's kind of see you all again. I am Andrea Hemel again with eduClimber, and we are going to jump on into the training today. So I hope you had a chance to kind of process everything we did before. The first day is always a little bit of overload if you haven't used it, especially just trying to get in there and understand and navigate. But what you're going to realize today is that, let's see, Dr. Dave, we have somebody that can't get in. What you'll realize is that a lot of it is the same click path. So, all right, so Miss Haig, I think that Dr. Dave will guide you through getting in to eduClimber. So I'll keep going. I promise I won't leave you behind, Miss Haig. I'm just going to do a quick review anyway. So anybody else having login problems, please let us know. All right, so quick review. You should be, when you log in, on a page that looks much like mine. The only difference you will see is going to be your recent students and any visualizations. So that would be the difference. Remember, as a reminder, all of your clicking and your permissions, or your view of students, I should say, are based on your permissions. So whenever you start to dig into the data, you'll see different things than what my screen may look like, or different views of things, because it is all based on the permissions that you have and what school you're with. So as a quick review, First, most important, top left, where that little bar graph icon is next to the word eduClimber. If you start clicking into your system, into the platform, just remember top left gets you back to this page. Don't be afraid to click. It is absolutely fine to click around. You won't mess anything up. If you happen to hit something and it does let you delete, maybe something that you've created in the process, it will remind you, hey, are you sure you want to delete this, with a big red button? But please don't be afraid to click around in this district grade class tab. That's where we're going to spend a lot of time today creating some different things. Just a reminder with district. District doesn't necessarily mean that you have complete district view. You may, it depends on your permission. You may just be at one school, but see a district tab. That's because you're able to see all of your grade levels, all grades here in one view if you're at that one school. Just a reminder, we are going to go backwards a year. That's because we don't have assessment data just yet. With schools just starting, once you get those assessments completed and they're loaded into eduClimber, and you want to see the recent assessments, then you could stay within that 22-23 school year. So if you'll go with me here, just for practice, just as a quick reminder, go to that district tab if you have it. If you don't, we're going to go to grade just a second. This is just a quick reminder of what we did last time, so bear with me. For district, I would choose a school or schools. I am going to go ahead and just choose one here. Let's do a middle school, just for the sake of getting some data. And this is where I have a difference between that district and grade tab. For district, even if I'm at one school, I can choose all grade levels. I don't have to filter down to just one. If you're in the grade tab, you'll notice you do have to choose one of those grades. You won't have the option to see all three, or however many you have there listed. I'm going to go to 7th grade here, just to narrow it down for district. And when I hit search, I'm able to pull the data of this particular search criteria that I just set. So you would see some bar graphs come up. Now in that district tab, if you go to the top right, we do not have the option of going back and forth between bar graphs and spreadsheets, data walls. So I'm going to take you to the grade tab. This is where we'll work for most of what we're going to do today. So if you'll go ahead and go to that grade tab, remember, we're going to go backwards one year, so 21-22. I'm not able to hit search here, so I do have to go and choose a school or schools. You may have an option of more than one, you may just have one. I like to try to stay kind of in the middle of the grades, so I'll go to middle school here. I'll go ahead and choose 7th grade. Now, just a reminder, we're getting a second year drop down here where we did not have that in district. Just as a reminder, especially as you start to get that 22-23 data in, you can choose to do 2 years once that data comes in for this school year. And that'll give you 2 years of cohort data. You do have the option right now to go backwards up to 2 years, 3 years of data that's loaded in your system. So this search basically allows you to have cohort data pulled in on the group of students that you have permissions to see. I am going to just keep it a lateral year so that we're not pulling too much information up on our screen. Remember, categories has to do with your content area. Your assessment suite has to do with those assessments that are associated with your school and grade level. I like to leave these open right now until you're really sure of what's there. And then you could do a more intentional search. I'm going to skip filters. We're going to get into that today, and I'm going to go to search. So once you've put in last school year's data, and you've picked your school and your grade level, and you've hit search, you should see a list of some bar graphs appear. Notice in the grade tab, this is over to the top right where we have the choice to go between charts and a data wall. So it's just a toggle back and forth of the view that I'd like to see. I'm going to stay in charts right now. We're going to go ahead and dig into incidence and attendance just a little bit more. So we didn't get to talk enough, I feel like, with incidents and attendance last time. So I just want to spend a few minutes here. I want to review incidents and attendance and what's in your view and your platform, and allow for any questions before we move into tagging and collections today. So you'll notice here on the left side, it goes from literacy all the way down to attendance. You may see some different content areas here depending on your school and grade level. I want you to click incidents, which should be the second from the last at the bottom. That's always going to be the case. Incidents and attendance will always be the last two, regardless of what content areas you have here.
And just a quick reminder, I know I said this last week, but for incidents, it's anything that qualifies as a referral that was sent over. So I know there are minor ones in there. Those are minor referral codes. If you qualified it as a minor infraction in focus, you clicked that little minor infraction button. We have not sent those over. We're looking into it, but we have not done that yet. So it'll only be those classroom or school referrals that are showing.
Thank you so much for reminding them of that. So whenever you do click on incidents to the left, you will see the what, the when, the where, and the who, just scrolling up and down on your screen. The what will give you the incident type, incident code. Remember, it's just what qualifies as a referral, like Dr. Dave said. Your when is going to be by month, weekday, and hour. Again, hour would only be if you're putting those specific hours into your school information system. You've got your where by location, school, and then your who, your top 20 students. And then, of course, your school is going to be by whatever school you chose. So you may only see that one bar graph here. If you're seeing others, it could just be that those are aliases that maybe those schools were brought in from past data. So don't worry if you're seeing other schools like you're seeing here with mine. You know that you only have this one school because it's this one bar graph. So these top 20 students, very helpful for your counselors if they're working with students or your any disciplinarians. These are those top 20 that maybe you're trying to intervene and assist with their behaviors, hopefully getting them to find other avenues rather than what they're doing. But that will give you your top 20. You're able to dig into any of these blue graphs. So if I come over here to month, if you want to go through this with me, let's say I want to view what's going on here in September. So if I click that blue bar graph for September, it's going to then bring me to everything about September and those referrals that were written. So each box is going to be labeled at the top left. So you've got a lot of choices here on where you want to drill into further. Remember, I'm only in 7th grade because that was my original search, and I only have one school because that was my original search. So let's say I want to dig a little bit further into this. Let's say I want to see what are these classroom incidents. So I can drill into that by clicking that bar graph. And now bottom left reminds you what you drilled into. I've drilled into just the month of September and just classroom incidents. If I decide this is where I want to stop, I don't want to drill in any further. If you come to the top right where it says data list and click, this is where I'll get a list of all of the students, of course, my one school, my one grade level, each day it occurred, the incident type and behavior, and then of course the location is the same because remember that's what I drilled into was classroom. You can scroll over to the right, and if there are any other columns with data in them, response observer, those may or may not be filled in the future, but you do have perceived motivation here. And if you wanted to download this, you just click that download arrow and it would go into a CSV file. Going back to the left, if you click this little caret under description, it will open this box up so you can read what was written about that incident based on the teacher's response or an administrator, whoever wrote the student up. and you'd see it right underneath. I'm not clicking it because it could very well show the name of the student. So I'm going to leave that up to you guys to click there. All right, so to get out of this, we're going to hit the top right above data list. We're going to hit that X. So just remember, you can drill into any of these bar graphs as deep as you would like to go, as specific and as narrow as you would like to focus on, or you can leave it wide open. So let's say I just chose to leave this wide open. I don't want to drill into any of these bar graphs here. If you come over to the top right, you see data wall. If we click over to the data wall, this time what I'll get is a list of my students here to the left. You'll see comments, tags, and interventions. We're going to get to tags today, but all this does is let you know if there are any comments, tags, or interventions on these students. What I really want to focus on are these last three categories. You have your majors, minors, and your school reportable, I believe your state reporting. And like Dr. Dave said, these are all of those that qualify as a referral. And if you click in the top left of any of those columns, that's where you can sort your columns. So if I click at the top left of that major column, you'll see red, yellow, and then that teal green color. What this is doing is putting those students into tiers. So our tier ones by default in eduClimber are 0 to 1. Our tier 2 students are 2 to 5. And then tier 3 are 6 or more. Again, this can be downloaded into a CSV file. And finally, you can click into any of these cells. So if I'm looking at student 5531 and I want to click into this number here, 17. Now I'm going to see a repeat of what I just saw when I looked at the whole school, but now I'm only looking at this one student. So let's say we have a meeting on just this student today. We're doing an intervention or we're doing some type of student support meeting. This information is now just on that one student that I clicked into that cell. Remember the light bulb. Anytime you see a light bulb, click it. So this gives me a summary right here of just this one student now, instead of the whole group or a particular part of what I was drilling into. This is now just that student, and I can get a data list of just this student as well. So where it says student, you'll see the same name. Again, download to a CSV file, and this would allow you to have that information right there in front of you if you're trying to meet to come up with some things on this one particular student. So we've removed the list of all other students. I'm going to close out at the top right with that X. And then the last thing I want to show you here is the student's name. If you click into that cell that has the student's name, you just click right on top of their name in that cell, it will bring you to the student profile. So a quick review of that student profile. All their demographics are here on the left. Going to the right, you'll see a box that says incidents. Here's the number of incidents. Notice it gives you a hand. That means it's clickable, and I can drill into, again, right where I was a minute ago, directly into this student and all of the things that apply to that student's behavior. All right, so any other questions with incidents at this time so far? There are just two other places I'm going to bring you with incidents. All right, so I do want to bring you to, like I said, two other places I want you to see. If you go along the left side of your panel, you're going to see an icon that looks like a whistle. If you go to that whistle, highlight over it. If you're not sure if it's a whistle, it's kind of a different little shape to it. Just hover over it and you'll see a tab that says incidents. It's the fourth one from the bottom. If you click, this brings us to an incident launchpad. This will allow us to see any incidents that are happening currently. We can come here to the right, kind of in the middle of the screen. It says last 30 days. If you click, You can adjust that to be the last 60, the last 90, or you can go year to date. If there are any numbers here into this box that says My Incidents in the center of the page or Open Incidents, if you see numbers there, or you begin to populate numbers there, it is clickable. It will let you go into that screen so that you're able to see any incidents that you have been attached to in some way. And then here, the search bar at the top. If you go to the far right of that bar, where it says search by, go to the far right to advance. This is really handy if you guys are using PBIS, if you're doing any kind of quarterly incentives. I know a lot of, especially younger schools, may do incentives where if they haven't had any majors or so many numbers of majors, they can do this celebration at the end of each quarter, anything like that. If you're looking to see, well, what students at a glance have only had one incident? If you click this advanced button here to the far right, this allows you to do a pretty narrowed search of any incidents that you're looking for. So if you want to isolate all incidents within your school or within your grade level to a certain date, you can do that here. You would go to the school year. More than likely, I would assume you'd be looking at this school year. You'd be able to put your start and end date. So if you're looking for a quarter, that's where you put those dates. You don't have to fill all of this in. Remember, the more you fill in, the more specific your search is. So that means that you have to have at least one student fit all of the criteria you put in there for it to return a search. If you put it very, very narrowed, you may possibly get no students. So just fill in the things that you're really looking for. What is it that you're truly searching for? And if it is say a quarterly PBIS celebration, put those start and end dates. Narrow down to those things that you're really looking for. Possibly this school, obviously you're going to get the school with that one search, but the grade, I would probably leave student open in this case because I'm not looking for one student. I'm not looking for observers or tags, but what I might be looking for, incident types. So maybe I'm looking for just this, or like Dr. Dave said, if they're in there, it is because they were somehow converted to that, what qualifies as referrals for you guys. So you may choose all three. And then you could choose an incident code if you're looking for just a code, or again, if it's about that celebration, you could leave it open. And then you could go back and do that search from here. So this just gives you a chance to really narrow down that search for incidents, and it can be downloaded into an Excel file down at the bottom right. Once you get your search correct, that's where I would hit that. So that was kind of a choose your own adventure, as I call it, because there's so many different things that you can fill in there. I'm going to go ahead and close it out here. And the last button I want to show you here with incidents is calculate risk ratio. So I'm going to click this button here at the top right, calculate risk ratio. This is where you're able to look at your equity. So the first thing I want to do, and if you forget anything I say, it's in the slide deck, but it's also here if I hover over that I with the circle right next to the word ratio. What you're going to do is you want to start by first identifying that, we're going to identify the disproportionality, but we're going to start with the control group, that group, that population that's largest within your school. So we're going to begin here by choosing the first drop down, and I'm going to pick ethnicity, just it's the first one. So we're going to go with that one. And then that control group, what is the majority of your population? 65% or more. Now I know that this could vary based on schools. It's not always just a district end question, but again, it depends on the search you're in on what you're going to answer for this. Are you looking at a district view, or are you looking at your school or your grade view? So depending on that percent is what you would fill in here. I'm just going to take a guess here. I am going to go ahead and put, I'm going to put Hispanic white here. It's going to tell me if I'm wrong because it's going to give me a chart in just a moment telling me numbers. And I'm going to leave it with this school year and I'm going to hit apply. I may have to go back a year depending on what you guys have loaded. Yep, that's what I was afraid of. So I'm going to go back a year. You'll need to go back a year as well until the data is coming in for incidents. So I went back to the 21-22 school year and I hit apply. You don't need to select ranges or incidents or demographics here, not until you're really getting more into this. I just want to show you a quick overview. So I'm just choosing the ethnicity because it was the first one there to choose. I'm going to pick my control group and go to last school year and hit apply. And we're getting no control incidents. Okay, so this, we're going to probably need to put a ticket in for this. So Dr. Dave, I know you're not getting incidents being pulled in at this time. So
We send them over at 8 p.m. every night. And there are students who I can see have incidents for this year. So I'm not sure why this isn't.
okay, we're going to put in a
Open
ticket.
those up.
What you should be getting are numbers here where it's saying no control incidents. And then it's
Maybe
going to give
on
you,
how we tagged the incidents,
it
possibly.
could be that. It could definitely be that. The other thing I noticed, I'm going to back up here, guys. We're going to close out of this just for a minute. The other thing I want to show you anyway, but I'm noticing that this is a problem. You can see data from 21-22 to Gidget. Okay. Gidget, were you able to see it when you went into what we just did though? When we did that calculate risk ratio? Yes. Okay, perfect. Then let me see if maybe if I change the control group, if it changes it at all. Yep. Okay, so it was the control group I pulled. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Gidget.
Oh, yes. That is okay. I can explain this for everyone. So if you see Hispanic and something else, that doesn't actually exist anymore because the state changed the way that we operationalize ethnicity and race with the last ESSA law. So if we had selected just Hispanic, it should work. And I'm not sure why that Hispanic white is showing up at all because we don't multi-report students anymore.
Okay, I'll put that in your parking lot just so that maybe we can remove it just in case. Okay, thank you, Gidget, too, because I probably would have had to say, was there going to be a ticket or some sort of situation there? All right, and let's go back to 22-23. And then I'm going to hit apply. Okay, so yeah, we're still not showing the 22-23. But if you're showing 21-22, I want you to stay there. And what you're going to get is a return of some numbers here in these boxes. Now, like I said, I just randomly picked what the control group was. So the way I can tell if it's right or not based on the search that I did is going to be based on the numbers in these boxes. So 7,000, roughly 7,000, 7,800 students there. For Hispanic, I see 40,000. So my control group should be Hispanic. So I'm going to come back here, put Hispanic in, and then hit apply. And with that largest number of students, I should see a 1-to-1 ratio. You're going to know, obviously, your majority of your students based on ethnicity. I'm kind of going in the dark here. Once you get that, though, largest number of students, 1-to-1. So from there, what this is showing you is just based on ethnicity, what is that risk ratio of those students having an incident? What is their risk? If you go to the right at the bottom, it'll show you equal if it's 25% higher all the way to 3 times higher. The bar graphs will display what that looks like visually, and then each of these boxes will give you that that ratio of students to 1. And again, your 1-to-1 is that largest control group. So you can use this if you're having to do some reports, if you're working on your equity of your students, if you're looking at those incidents in this case. Again, it doesn't have to just be ethnicity. You do have some other choices. You have gender, disability, and here's where you could apply tags. So as you all start to use the tag feature, which we're getting into next, you can take and apply a tag here. Let's say it's tier 2 students. Are they more at risk than other students when it comes to incidents? You're able to apply any of these situations to this screen. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out here. And the last place I want to bring you on incidents is on your home page. So if you'll click that top left button, it'll bring you back to your home page. And this is where in the visualizations bottom left, you will see any data that's coming in. Now, I have not shown data. Dr. Dave, are you showing data on your Launchpad?
I am not.
Okay, because this is something that I haven't seen. I think I actually already did put it on the parking lot. I noticed it last week, but if not, I'll make sure to go back and put it. This is where I'm not seeing anything for this school year for 22-23 coming through. I know you have data in there, but I'm not
my
showing it. So what it will look like, we'll put in a ticket for that, but I'll go ahead and do a search backwards just to kind of show you what it would look like as it comes through. Is it will go on a 2-week time span. Now I went backwards in time. I just used the calendar option here and went backwards to February. So I'm looking at January 1st to February 2nd. I'm sorry, January 19th to February 2nd of the last school year. So it's 2 weeks at a time for incidents only. Everything here is clickable. So if I wanted to click into it, there's where I'm going to get my bar graphs again, data list. But notice I only clicked into this one particular column. So I'm going to back up and show you that again. And you will start to have your incidents filter in for this school year. I'll make sure to put that down on your parking lot, see what's going on, that it's not flowing. But any of these columns that you wanted to click into, a bar graphs, if you click into it, it doesn't seem like you can, but you are able to, even though it's the arrow instead of the hand. If you click into it, it's going to bring you only to what you clicked into and allow you to filter further down. And again, anytime you see that light bulb, click into it. It gives you a summary of the page that you're looking at, as well as your data list, same navigation path. And then finally, we're going to go to attendance here and jump in, and then I'm going to give you a chance to kind of do some thinking and processing, put you in some groups for just a few minutes. So while we're here, if you click next to incidents, go to attendance, this you should see. This is filtering in. July is always going to come through just because it's going to flow from July to June each year. So where you see 100%, you guys know you weren't in school in July, so that would make sense. As August, September hit, you can see your attendance, and this will portray for the whole school year. So as you get into October, November, you're going to start to see all of those months populate here on this visualization on your Launchpad. Now, this 2-week time span that we see for incidents does not apply to attendance. And again, if you click into that, that month, it's going to bring you up to whatever schools you're able to see. So you may not see what I'm seeing here. You may only see one school, or you may see them all. And then again, this is where we're going to go review, but you can click into each month here with attendance. So I'm going to back out here, and I'm going to go explain that a little bit further. Before I jump back into attendance, do you have any questions on incidents right now? All right. What I'd like you to do is go to the grade tab, go back to that grade tab. Remember, eduClimber remembers where we left off. I want you to go to the left navigation pane and go to attendance, your last one underneath incidents. If you have different choices, maybe you want to go to a different grade level, feel free to switch that search up. Just don't forget, if you change anything in this search bar here at the top left, make sure you hit search again so it can go and refresh your page with the new data that you've put in, or the new criteria you put in. So once I get to attendance, I'm only in one school. So when I go to school, I'm only going to see one dot. I'm going to click from here to the right by grade. Again, I only have 7th grade chosen, so I'm going to see one dot. Weekday, Monday through Friday. This is the average attendance rate so far this year. Don't forget about your light bulb. If you click that light bulb, here's a summary of what we have so far, again, based on weekday. Month. And this is going backwards. ethnicity, because I'm on 21-22, gender, and your top 20 students. So if I go back to weekday, whether you're in this school year or last, you can dig in further to this data. So let's say I'm going to go to this school year. Since I know it's there, I'm going to go to 22-23. I'm going to go ahead and go back to your middle school. I'm going to search 7th grade again. I need to hit search because I've changed some criteria here. And I'm going to go ahead and go to attendance. Same thing, I just switched up my year. I'm going to go to weekday. And I want to dig into what day of the week seems to be my biggest problem. And right now I can see Thursday. And this is just so far. Typically, when we're talking about attendance, we do need to know percentage rates, but sometimes we're just looking for numbers. We're looking for actual numbers. So what days, how many days has this equal to with this 53.63% attendance rate? If you choose a dot, whatever it may be, I'm going to go for the lowest one here on Thursday. If I click that dot, my screen will freeze and I get a box. It says view absence counts or view attendance rates. Well, I'm already in rates. It's right here at the left toward the top left. It says rate. So I'm in rates. If I click this, nothing's going to change. I want to see some numbers though. What are some raw numbers? So if I click view absence counts, I'm going to look at these familiar blue bar graphs, just like we did with incidents. Each of these boxes holds something different. So top 20, ethnicity, gender, weekday, month, school, grade, and I can do the exact same thing. So now that should hopefully feel comfortable. You're doing the same navigating through this process, just like we did with incidents. I can drill in further, start clicking into some of these months. Again, bottom left will tell me that breadcrumb trail. And if I come to the top right for data list, here's where I'm going to get that list of students based on whatever I drill down to. And I can download this to a CSV file. So this is great for any of your staff that handles truancy. If you're following truancy, counselors, they're able to create this list and get more details on these students and these numbers. And again, you can drill down as far as you need to. This is 43 pages long. If I chose to drill in even further, let's say I'm just looking at a certain group, ethnicity-wise, or gender, or a certain reason. Maybe I only want unexcused absences. I'm not worried so much about excused. You can drill in further. I'm going to hit that X at the top, come back to this original view. And the last thing I want to show you with attendance, just like we did with incidents, top right data wall. If I go to that data wall button, I'm going to get a lot of those same features. It does give me a little bit more with ethnicity here, whereas incidents didn't give me these pieces here in the center. But it does to the far right give me that list of tiered students. So if I click in the top left corner of that column, here's my tier 3 students. Here's my tier 2 students. The break off here for tier 2 and tier 3 is rated at 85%. If I keep scrolling down, here are my tier 1, tier 2 students, and that break off is right at 90%. Same click path, same navigation applies. If I choose a cell, if I click into it, I am just getting attendance now on this one student. And I'm able to go ahead and use these different tabs from left to right to dig in further. If I want just the count, you just click, in this case, that drop down menu right next to attendance rate, and it would bring me to the counts. Again, I am just on this one student. And there's the data list. So everything's the same there, other than the drop down here where I'm not clicking the dot itself. How did I get there? Over here on this right, when I went to data wall, clicking in any of those cells for a specific student.
Just to let everyone know, incidents for this year should be fixed tomorrow. We've been sending incidents for the year 2202 instead of the year 2022. So we
That's
fixed that.
easy fix at least. Hopefully it's an easy fix.
Yeah, it's just one line in the export.
All right, so then, and finally, if you did want to go straight to the student's profile, just like we've always done in that data wall, click that student's name, brings you to their profile page. Here's the demographics again. Here's the tab that we look at for attendance. So a minute ago, we looked here for incidents. Here's attendance. If I click this tab, it will give me that student's screen, just this one student, just like we did a minute ago. But we can see over time, this student's attendance rate, counts, print out that data wall. So you can get as specific as you need to get with those students or as large of a group as you would need to get. And then the last piece of this goes back to where we just left off. So if you click your launch pad and you look at attendance, you can look at it over time. And you would see your graphs. And this is just because it showed all the different years where I was with this one student. So I'll refresh so it doesn't confuse you. So there's my attendance for just this school year. Again, your attendance graphs will look different based on your permissions. So if you just have one school, it's not going to be the same numbers as mine. If you have all access, then you should see what I see, just so that doesn't confuse you. All right, so what I want to do here is I want to take a moment, give you a chance to spend a few minutes in a breakout session. And I'm going to kind of give you something to somewhat follow. I don't want you to feel like you have to stick to this exact thing I'm giving you, but I just want to give you something to kind of guide you, work with within a group. I want you, this is in your learning guide. You don't need to go to it. I don't want to make it so narrowed that you feel like you're not getting the practice you might need with your group. But if you just need something to kind of focus on, some guide to take you, I would like you, I'm going to do breakout sessions. We're going to do, let's do 10 minutes because I just want to give you guys a chance to process, get everything going. I want you to do a breakout session with your groups. And I just want you to think of either an incident type, or you can turn this into an attendance thing as well. Or if you just want to review your bar graphs. So just think of something, some direction that you're going to go in, whether it's incidents, attendance, or maybe it's just the data, because we did do that last week as well, if you wanted to kind of review that. I want you to look at what it is that you're viewing. When you dig into it, are you going to look at a bar graph or a spreadsheet? What type is it? What is it you're going for? Is it a particular assessment, particular incident, particular month of attendance, whatever it is? And I just want you to kind of think of some different questions you may have with that. Think about how your staff, your teachers are going to have questions with this, or what will they want to know more about, and just kind of guide each other through that. So it's really just, I don't want you to stick exactly to this. This is in your learning guide. If you have to roll these out this eventually to your teachers at some point, you can certainly use this to be very narrowed, very specific on what you want them to do. I want to leave this open just because we're kind of reviewing still, and I want you to be able to ask any questions that you have at this point. So I will go ahead and get you into some breakout sessions. Let's do 10 minutes. So we will come back at 9:28 your time, and I will be open to any questions that you have. So I'll go ahead and get you guys in some groups right now. We'll do groups of about 3 to 4 people. I'll join as many as I can, just in case you have any questions. So I will see you back in 10 minutes, and be ready for any questions that you have for me as well. All right, you should have your invitation to join a breakout room. Alrighty, so we should be getting everybody back. I was able to meet with 2 groups, so that was good. I felt like that was good. There's a lot, so I'll just go to some different ones next time. Any big questions you guys have for me? Anything that came up?
I have a question, but I don't know if it really pertains to this or not.
It's okay.
When we're gonna tag our students for MTSS, like their tiers, we're doing it through eduClimber. Is that
Correct.
something you're gonna teach us how to do, or did you already do that and I missed it?
No, nope, we're going there right now.
Oh,
Soon
thank
as we
God.
go through
Okay.
questions, oh yeah, you're good. Nope. We talked a little bit about it that first session just because it came up. So it was kind of talked about a little bit. No, we're doing that right now. So you're right on track. I just wanted to
Thank
do a
you.
good review with incidence attendance. We are right on track with doing tags.
Okay, beautiful.
Just a reminder for everyone, the first session, the video is in the Google Drive. And I also uploaded it to our account and sent that link out in the team. So you have multiple ways to get to it if you need it.
Thank you, Dr. Dave. Okay, so Michelle, when you go to attendance from the sign-on screen, it's switching you to Ready Creek. Okay, Dr. Dave, I'm gonna let you look into that one just because it could have to do with the school or the permissions. So Michelle.
It does the correct school when I go into more specifics, but when I go from the main sign-in screen, it switches me to Reedy Creek.
I'll fix that. That happens when you've got a student who you were in a classroom with at some time in the past 4 years and they went off to a different school. You still have permission to view that kid. eduClimber puts the kids in student ID order, so that kid is probably a higher student ID, which is why it's defaulting there, but I'll fix it for you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for letting us know. Yes, any of those things, let us know if you're seeing something just doesn't seem right. All right, so in the 2 groups I went to, I heard positive things as far as the system and just having one place to go and being able to start to look at different data sets and how to compare those. I heard that it's a lot, but it's going to get easier and easier each time we do this. Today, we're just doing 2 different sections, and I think you're going to enjoy definitely tags. We're going there now, and then collections is pretty quick and easy. So I don't think you'll be as overwhelmed. My only advice here is to continue to just click, click, click. I promise you, if you're just clicking into the data and you're just clicking into those data walls, you're not messing anything up. You're just digging into it, and it's the only way you're really going to get a good feel. So please don't be afraid to do that. So where we're going to go next is to tags. So let me go ahead and get my slide deck there. Again, I'm just going to show you a few slides with this, more because I want you to know what you have for slides, see those visualizations with it, and be able to use it as a reference as well. So today we're going to hit tags, and we're going to spend as much time as you need in tags. Like I said, we have extra time in day 2 and day 3. So I promise not to keep you late, and I promise we're going to get through everything. So some things with tags, you guys have already started that conversation, and many of you, even in that one group I worked with, have already started tags. And I've seen in your system, you've got a lot of tags going. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the little parts of this other than to give a quick overview for anybody that doesn't know. And we're going to jump right in and start working on these and getting some guidance on what you need to do as well. So when we think of tags, what I do want you to think about, and just going to give you a moment on this, because like I said, most of you guys have them built already. What kind of tags do you want to create? What are you looking to track? A tag is a cohort or a group of students that you are deciding belong as one that you want to look at over time. So it's basically like saying I have 3 different buckets on the beach, and the red bucket is going to have just water. The second bucket's going to have sand and water. The third bucket's going to have sand, water, and little beach crabs, whatever it is. It's different ways for you to sort those students on how you want to track them and what you want in each of those buckets, if you'll say. You can do anything from incidents, attendance, assessments, and you will be able to, even on next Tuesday when we hit Students 3D, which you're definitely going to love with this, on how to actually put all of these pieces together and see what you get back from it. So we're going to take that first step and create these tags today. So I want you to think of any of those groups of students that you are looking to track. When we put a tag in, what will happen is, let's say I created a group of students that are graduation at risk. Maybe they have poor attendance, they have a high number of incidents, and their scores are low. And I really want to, let's say I'm the counselor, and I really want to take these groups of students, this particular group of students, and I want to track them so I can try to intervene before it becomes detrimental and the student doesn't graduate. Whenever I go put a tag in, I can tell eduClimber, okay, eduClimber, go pull just these, however many students, say it's 10 students. I only want to see these 10 students. And I want you to give me any assessments on these 10 students, any incidents, any attendance issues. I'm able to pull just the group of students that I create for that tag. Whenever I choose this, I'm going to go through my filters button, which I told you we would talk more about today, and I would be able to look at my graduation at risk. When I click a tag, it's green. Now here's the advantage to tags. Let's say I want to look at all of my other students for data points, for statistical reasons, and remove those students that are on a tag. I can click it and exclude just those students on that tag as well. Some things that I want you to think about right now, again, I won't do this as an activity just because so many tags are put in there, and we're going to go through this together anyway. So I just kind of want you to have this thought in mind. I know Dr. Dave gave some thought last time as to the students you need to put onto a tag. If I'm not mistaken, I believe you had said it was tier 2 or tier 3 students. Regardless, keep those students in mind of the tags you want to put them on. Dr. Dave, you want to give clarification on the tags here too, so they can keep that in mind with what we're doing?
Right. So the same work that we've done in years past through Focus, we are doing an eduClimber this year. So your tier 2 and tier 3 students in reading, math, and behavior, you are going to be tagging in here. Those tags are already made as public tags. So when you go in to do it, we're going to learn in a minute how to create new tags. You don't need to do that. You're just going to select it from the drop down. And then the expectation is that you will tag all of your students, tier 2 and tier 3, by September 30th.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, because I knew you had some things you'd mentioned last week. So I'll show you guys, like Dr. Dave said, I'll show you how to create a tag, but that is not something that you necessarily want them to do. Dr. Dave, is that right?
Well, they can create their own tags, especially private ones. So I know there's a lot of interest in creating tags for like your Avid groups or for specific reading circles or for sports teams at our middle and high school. So they do want to make tags, but don't make your own tier 2 and 3 tags. We want to use the public ones for that.
Got it. Okay, thanks for clarifying that for me too. So we're going to go through, think about any tag that you might want to do within your school or for you. Counselors might want to create those for students at risk for attendance incidents. Teachers, this can be done all the way on the teacher level. If I'm a teacher and I'm wanting to look at different groups of students, maybe I'm looking at a certain group of students that's high performing, but they're not quite gifted, but I'm going to keep my eye on them because they may qualify for gifted. Or the other end of that spectrum, they are struggling, and I want to see if the things that I'm doing for them in my classroom are helping any. Those are going to be tags just for me to monitor. So there's going to be 2 different types of tags. There's going to be a public tag, and there's going to be a tag just for you. There are permissions that are going to allow you to create public tags or manage public tags. You'll know in a minute what permission you have. Either way, it's not going to mess you up on what we're going to do. And if you feel like you should have a higher level, that's where you can talk to Dr. Dave and he can work that with you on permissions. But we're going to go there in just a minute so you can see what you have. So what we're going to do first, and I'll go through the slides and then I'll go walk through it with you. So whether you're doing this on your own right now or you just want to watch the slides, I will go back and redo this. So don't feel like you have to do it while I'm showing the slide. So we're going to go in and we're going to choose that grade tab, like I said, just because that's where we're going to be able to narrow down a little bit more with what we're looking for. When we choose that grade tab, we're going to go in and create a tag for students. Now we're all going to call this tag a delete tag. We're going to do a practice tag. I want, when we get there, I'll show you on the screen, but I want to emphasize this more than once, just so I don't lose anybody with this. We're going to go in and we're going to create a tag. You can put your last name and then delete. We want to make sure it's a delete because we don't want it to stay in the system. If it's something that you have in mind right now, a real tag, then we can even go back and edit that. So we're going to do a practice tag first. I'll show you how to edit. So maybe it's something that you have in mind that will actually be a real tag, and you can always go and edit that name so it's not a delete. But in the beginning, just for the sake of keeping your system clean and not having unnecessary tags, we'll call it delete. So what happens is when we dig into that data, we're going to choose a group of students that we want to identify for that tag, whatever that tag is in your mind that you want to create. In this case, these students are at risk. So we're going to choose those students' boxes in front of their name, and I'll walk you through all this. So don't feel like you got to remember this on your own. We're going to choose those boxes. We're going to tag this student. And what's going to happen is we're going to get a box to appear. There's going to be two boxes. This box to the left is the first one that will appear. We're not going to see this until we get over here. So you're going to see this box. We're going to go ahead and choose the school year that we want to tag those students on. We're going to go ahead and do a test tag here. And then we're going to go ahead and hit, when we hit the drop down, tier 3. Yes, Amber, that was a real one because you guys did actually go put those onto that tag, onto that group. And I'll show you where those are towards the end of tagging today. You're welcome. And so we're going to hit new tag because it's not going to be in this drop down. The one that we're creating today, I want to emphasize this before we do it. I don't want you to go put some random students onto a tag and you really didn't intend to, because we're just playing in this sense. Because those students, when you have access to those public tags, they will live in that tag until you go remove them. So we're going to create a pretend tag just for you, not a public tag. So we're going to have to go hit new tag. And that's where we're going to create here, new tag. You're going to know if you have the higher level permission to create a public tag or not if you have this box viewable to others. If you don't see that box, then you don't have permission. So again, I just want to clarify, we're not going to go and grab some students just at random and put them into an existing public tag, because that means those students are intended to be in that public tag and they will stay there unless you go physically delete them out. So when you have, and I'm going to say probably many of you have this permission, if not all, we do want to be careful with a public tag permission, because if I just go select some random students and go stick them into this public tag because I'm just trying to play and figure it out, those students are going to stay there. Let's say I realize it and I go delete them, but then I delete a whole bunch of other students that someone else put there that should be there. I've just undone their work. So you have a little bit of power here in the sense that where I've been saying all along, go click around. You can click, but in this case for tags, we want to be a little bit more intentional and a little bit more safe in what we're removing and adding to these tags. Because Dr. Dave, I'm going to use him as an example, could have sat and did this for over an hour, created a tag with 2,000 students on it. And if you have that public permission, you go and hit delete, you have removed his work. You didn't remove the students, you didn't remove the data, but you did remove Dr. Dave's hour or so of work for those 2,000 students. All right. Any questions so far? So we're going to dig into this. One more thing, we'll go to a data wall. I'll show you how to apply those tags as well. I'll show you where they live on the student profile. I'll show you how we can go retrieve those tags, either include or exclude them from our search. And then I'll show you some other places that they can be created as well. So the big point here is that we're going to do a practice tag first. We do not want to, in this case, apply to a public tag just yet. Let's do a run through first. Then we can always go through that process and do, you know, the real piece. So if you guys will go ahead and navigate to the grade tab here in the center at the top left, grade. We know we need to go a year back because there's no assessments here just yet. I will go ahead and pick an elementary school this time. Choose your grade level. Again, we're going to leave this on last year because we don't have the data, and that's where we're going to stop. Categories, assessment suite, we're going to leave wide open. You'll see in a minute when we get to filters, once we create the tag, how to go look for them. So I'm going to hit search. So all we did so far was create a search for all of the different pieces of data that we can pull. So that shouldn't be anything new. Now this part is where we're going to, and you can be more intentional if you want, because again, we're going to create a practice delete tag, but this could be something that you're thinking is real. I really do want to use this tag. So that's okay. We still will do that, and we can always go and change that name so it's not delete. But just for now, just for the sake of practice, let's call it delete. We can always go back and edit. You don't have to delete it if this is something you really think you're going to use. I'm going to go ahead and navigate toward the bottom, and I'm going to use that map assessment just because it's there. It's easy for me to go and filter through. You can use any assessment you'd like. I'm going to go to my 3-dot menu and go to view performance levels. And let's say for last year for the winter assessment, I want to go tag these students. These are students that I would like to monitor. You can click on any part of that bar graph. Maybe you're looking at the high level of students. Maybe it's these students, these 2 that fall in the high category. Maybe you're monitoring them to see if they qualify for gifted services this year, and you want to see if they continue to improve or excel. It's whatever you have in mind. So I'm going to go to this bottom just because I have more students to pick from to show you here. And I'm going to click into those students. There's 22 students in this low group. I know I'm in the low group because next to students, it says low. I clicked into that red. Of course, I can change those levels, but I do want to stick with low for my example. So I'm able to choose whichever students I want that I'm going to include on this tag. If I want to choose all of them, I can click the box next to the word student and choose all of them. There's 22 students in all here. I'm going to choose all just for the sake of demonstrating this to you. And next to the low where it says students low group, it says tag students. Now, before I clicked it, I didn't have anything at all. There's nothing here. I can't, it doesn't allow me to click and tag students. So you have to have at least one box clicked for this to become active. I'm going to click tag students, and there's that box I was talking about. Now I'm going to go back a year for me. I'm going to suggest you do that too, just for what we're working through, because this data is last year's data, and that is truly where it lives. I'm going to say, okay, well, we're going to keep it on last year. I will show you, and so this is with intent that I'm going backwards, how to take students from year to year and easily switch them to a new year. So if you're doing this with me, I would say let's go back a year, 21, 22. And again, I do not want to choose one of these tags. Otherwise, if I choose any of these tags, I'm putting these 22 students into the tag I choose. I don't want to do that. I don't know. I'm an instructor. I don't know what those tags are. I don't want to come into your system and mess it up. You might not want to do that yet either. So we're going to say this is just for me. So what I want you to notice is if I look at any of these tags that exist, they have a globe next to them. The globe means that I am able to see that as a public tag. That's a public tag for anyone that can see public tags to view or even to apply. I don't want to do that. I just want my own tag. I'm going to click here next to it, new tag. So again, what are we going to call it? Put your last name and put delete. We can change this if you decide to use this tag beyond this training. You don't necessarily have to delete, but just in case, if Dr. Dave sees this, he can go ahead and say delete. If you see this, you know it was just practice. You can change the color. The color isn't necessarily to be pretty. It's not so much aesthetics as it is organization. If you can remember, we'll go back and view this as well, but when we looked at the data wall, each tag had a certain color. As long as we can do different colors, it helps it to stand out, so it really differentiates what tag is what, and we're not looking at one big long tag, especially when I have a lot of different words in that, or different phrases that I'm using for that tag. So I'm going to say green here. I'm going to give it a description, practice tag. You will know if you see this box, I don't want you to choose it, but you'll know if you have that public permission. This is what puts the globe next to your tag. So I'm going to leave this off. I do not want this to be for anyone else to see. This is just for me. If I'm a classroom teacher and I'm creating this for groups of students, a counselor, and I'm doing this just for me on my incidents. If I'm an administrator and I'm tracking just my after school tutoring, whatever it might be, this is just for me. So you do not want to click this box. And I'm going to hit save. Now it brings me back to the original box. Don't close this out because technically you haven't saved anything yet. So we're still on 2122. And then I need to open this box and you should see now your tag you just created. Notice it does not have a globe. If it has a globe, anybody can get to it with that public tag permission. I don't want anybody else to tag on this. So this is just for me. Nobody else is going to see this but me. I'm going to choose that tag, just that one. It's telling me I'm tagging 22 students and I'm going to hit save. Be sure you don't hit the X. You want to make sure that you hit save. You'll get a box at the bottom right. It quickly has a green check, hopefully not a red X, and it says it was done successfully and it's gone. That's it, that fast. I'm going to close those two boxes out. And so you're probably going, okay, so where's that tag at? So what I want to do now is I want to tell the system, okay, so what I did is I only used, just to be clear here, I only used the map assessment and I only used the lowest group of students. I used these 22 students out of 94 in that lowest category here. These are the 22 students that I just tagged right in here. If I tell the system, go filter the data, so I only see those 22 students, that means on any of these assessments now, I'm only going to pull up those 22 students. So let's go do that now. I'm going to come here to my filters button next to search. I'm going to click filters. And I've got quite a few choices here. Well, this is just telling me how the data is combined in these graphs in the background. So we know that school, ethnicity, gender are all combined, and the only thing it's separating is our grade. That makes sense. If I click assessment, that doesn't say anything about tags, so I'm not going to use that. If I choose demographics, I'm going to get a big long list, and the very first choice is tag. Well, that's where you know you want to go. So I'm just showing you how if you click, you'll find what you're looking for if it doesn't come natural right away. Because if I go here, there's nothing. If I come to intervention, there's nothing about tags. If I come to active students, there's nothing about tags. So it's not until I hit demographics, my first choice is tag. If you click the drop down in that box, I want you to choose your tag that you just created. Notice it's green. That's where we want to keep it. So if you just go to demographics in the filter button, tag and choose your tag, and then hit apply. Now this is a two-step process. I hit apply, but eduClimber can't go and do anything until I tell it to go get the information. So I could change anything on this search bar until I tell eduClimber, go get it. It just sits here. And that's a very, very, very common mistake. Even us as instructors will do it in a training because we're going through the motions and we'll go wait, and then we forgot we didn't hit search. So again, I applied it. I need to now go in and hit search. Then my screen refreshes. Now, what I want you to notice is I didn't tag any student with this FSA data, but if I hover over it, there's only 15 students now. That's because here for my map reading, where I only tag those 22, by the way, if I hover over that winter assessment, I am now only looking at that very bottom percent of those 22 students. That's all I see now. Everything else has been removed from my vision. Of the 22, there were 20 in the fall. Of those 22, 15 applied to the FSA assessment that they fell in that low category for map. They're also following in that low category for FSA, and that's what this shows me. Of those 22 students rather, 4 of them appear here, but this is where they're at or above. So that's some helpful information for me to see if I'm looking at some cross comparisons of different assessments. 1 here. Okay, Amber, I'm going to get there too. You'll be able to look at, again, gradebook of those 22 students. 12 were at or above, 3 were below. So you can see all of this information. I know that I'm on a tag because at the bottom of every single one of these charts, it says tag, email, delete.
Andrea, can I point something out that's changed
Yes,
since
please.
last week? If you
Yes.
scroll all the way to the top of this page, that FSA has been redesigned. So if you click the drop down from performance levels in the top right, not that, the box itself, the drop down box.
Oh, here.
So we now have the subtest. So for ELA, you want to set it to FSA ELA grade scores. And then that will bring in the proper scale scores for their grade level. Because the universal performance level doesn't consider the fact that there are 10 different scales, 8 different scales. And then from here, if you set it to the benchmarks, it will show you properly what, that's the 3-point, not performance levels just doesn't work for the FSA.
Okay.
In the way that it comes in. You have to set it to grade scores. Same with math, you have to set it to math grade scores. And then you can click the 3-dot menu and set it to view performance levels, and that will properly break them out into their level 1, 2, 3, or 5 on FSA. I know some people had some questions about that last week. I had to go back in and redo the assessment so that it all properly visualized, but that should all be visualizing properly right now, unless you are looking for Algebra 1 data, which no one in this call is.
Is there. So yeah, so whenever you remove this tag and you go to these grade scores, like Dr. Dave just said, and you go to that 3-dot menu, you'll see the breakdown of all of those students on that view benchmark level or view performance band, either way you go. We're only looking at those 15. So for this case, they didn't change like they did for these others. So these are just those 22 students I'm looking at. Now here's where I want to show you the reverse of something. If I come back to filters and I go back to that tag, if I click on that green oval and it makes it red, if I go now, what I'm going to tell eduClimber is take those 22 students, those 22 students. I want you to remove them from the data search and only show me all the other students that I have access to in this particular search. So I'm going to say remove 22 students. So all I did was click onto that oval, that tag, make it red. I'm going to hit, again, 2-step process. 1, apply, 2, search. So now the information I'm going to get back from eduClimber is going to be, how did all my other students perform? Tag will always say none if you're doing an exclusion. It will always say tag none. That name is consistent. That's how I know I've done some exclusion to some tag. Here are all my other students minus the 22. And so if I go to this map reading by grade, for example, and let's say I break it down into that view performance level, notice the red part, the low, they're gone because I've excluded them from this search. So going back and forth to choosing them or excluding them is as simple as going back to filters, clicking on that oval to say include or exclude. I'm going to go back to include those students, making it green, and then 2 steps, apply, search. So I'm back at excluding those 22, including just those 22. So I'm only looking at 22 students right now. This is my tag. How do I know? Tag, email, delete. If it says tag none, I've excluded them. Dara, it's possible that you didn't save the tag. So hold on to that 1 second, and I'm going to show you something that will let you know if it went through or if it didn't go through. I'm going to go back to Amber's question real quick, and Dara, I'm going to come back to yours to do some troubleshooting. So Amber, you were saying that you want to be able to see these groups, email, print. We can't email anything directly from eduClimber. There may be thresholds, but we're not getting into that. So this case, you can't just email straight out, because remember, eduClimber pulls things in and it aggregates, disaggregates data for you to visually see. What we can do is when I have gone to this filter to pull just this tag, and I just want to see these 22 students to get out for other teachers and whomever that is, that report I want to run, you can come over to your data wall. If you click your data wall, so now we're just navigating through data like we did last Tuesday, right? We just filtering certain groups. Here's those 22 students, and I can export those into a CSV file. 3-dot menu, download button, and export into a CSV file. So here's those 22 students that I'm looking at. Now, it just happens, let's say this was a real tag, which it's not, because I said it was a delete for me, it's practice. But if it was a real tag, some of these students are already on other tags. Some are not. That's where you can see why the color that you choose is important, because it keeps it from looking like it might be one big long tag, and then somebody doesn't know if they click on a different set of words here, that it's actually a different tag, not the same. And so this is where I can download that information into that CSV file. And from there, you could probably share out your Excel spreadsheet into an email, based off of it being downloaded on your computer. All right, so I'm going to show you one more thing. We're going to take a 15-minute break, and then Dara, I'm going to come back and show you, and I'll look on break as well just to double check yours. But I'm going to show you one other place that we can go to create a tag, but I want to go and remove everything from my filter. So we're going to go back to filters. You can do it right here from your data wall, your spreadsheet page, or from charts. You click filters and go back to demographics, and I want to just take this off. I can either hit this X or this X, either way. I want to remove that filter so I have no filters at all. 2-step process, apply and search. So I just want to be done. So I'm back at my original amount of students. All of my students here, there's 88 there, there's my 94 again here. So I'm just back at my original search. Okay, perfect, Dara. Okay, perfect. I'm still going to go back and show some other pieces with that might help you too. So if I go to data wall now from an original search, I'm able to go here, choose some students, and tag those students as well. So whenever I choose any students from that data wall, if you're in your data wall from charts to data wall, just choose several students, tag student. Don't forget to change your school year to 21-22. That's probably what happened, Darren. That's very, very common. If it defaults to the current school year, we're going backwards because this data is actually coming out of 21-22 year. Go to my tag, email delete, and save it. So I could successfully save that group of students. I'm going to do another one. Let's say it's on incidents. Let's say I'm looking at incidents and I'm a counselor and I come over to my data wall, again, top right. I'm going to sort my columns so that I've got my most concerning here at the top. I'm going to come over here and choose those 2 students. It's the same process. All I'm doing is repeating the steps. I'm just going to different places to get it. Tag those students, go back a year because I'm not pulling current year. I'm in 21-22 year. Put them on my tag and save. I'm going to do it again with attendance. So if you're missing any of it, I'm just repeating the same steps. No matter what I choose here to the left, I'm just repeating the same steps. So if I go to attendance, let's say, and I want to go tag my top 20 students. If I come over here, top right, data wall, I'm going to look at top left corner all the way to the right of the full day attendance rate, get just those students I'm looking to tag. I'm just going to click a few. I'm not going to worry about getting all 20. I'm going to click whatever students I'm looking at. Maybe in this case, I want to track these students for attendance. Again, once I check any box in front of the student's name, this teal bar appears and it says tag students. I want to go back a school year because I'm not in the current attendance info, data. I'm back a year, 21-22. I'm either going to create a new tag. Let's say I'm only doing this for attendance, or maybe I'm putting them on the tag that exists. Choose that tag and then hit save. And I've saved all of those students onto those tags. So what I want to do right now is I want to take a minute, give you guys a break because you've been sitting here. I want to make sure you have a 15-minute break. We'll come back. We're going to look at where those students went in those tags, how to retrieve them, and we'll move into collections, which again, it's a short piece, but if we need to spend the rest of the time in tags today, we will. And we will come back at, let's see, I got to readjust my times here. Let's do 10:22 your time. I will put on the screen a timer and we'll come back and finish up with tags and give you guys a break. And I'll be here for a few minutes if you have questions you want to ask me one-on-one. All right, whenever you guys are ready, we'll go ahead and get started again. Hopefully you had a minute to take a break, check emails, just take a mental moment. All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump back in and share my screen. So what we've been able to do so far is create those tags. That's all we've done so far. We dove into our grade tab. We went to anything from our content areas, chose some different students, added to a tag, dug into those bar graphs, chose their names, added them to a tag. We went to incidents and attendance as well. Did the same thing where we dug into any of those students. Anytime you see a box in front of a student's name, you should be able to see a bar that says to tag students. So now if you'll navigate back to your home screen, top left corner, those bar graphs, you're back at your home page. So where we know we can filter, again, you can stay where you are, but just to show you, we know where we can go and filter. We just go to that filter tab, go to demographics, choose that tag we want, and we can either include or exclude that information, right? So we know we can do that. But can I see a little bit more about the students that I've got on these tags? What about all of my tags? How about if I have a private tag, which does not have that globe, can I share it with a partner? Yes, yes to all those things. And let me show you how easy it is to go from here. So I'm going to go bottom right where it says quick links on your home page. I want to go to Student Tag Manager, this blue button. If you click that, this is where you're going to get a list of any tags that you're able to see, as well as your tag. So here's all the public tags with those check boxes that say public. Here's the tag I created, email delete. You should see yours at the top as well. Now I'm in 2223. It defaults to 2223 at the top of this page. There's no students in it. Well, that's right, because remember, we went to 2122 when we created those tags. So again, I'm going to remind you where I'm at, just in case you're coming back, if I lost you at all. All I did was click in on the home page on this launch pad, that blue box that says Student Tag Manager. All the information here populates. The year defaults to the current year. Well, there's a lot of things we can do on this page. Let's go back to last year, though. Let's go back to where we put our tag, 2122. When I go to 2122 and I go to the tag I created, here's those students. So here it has a number of students in this box. In 2223, it did not have any students there. So there's a lot of things that I can do from this page to really make your lives easy with tags. On top of the fact we can filter them out of data, any kind of data that we've got in eduClimber, that hopefully makes your life easy. But managing them, we're going to make super easy. So I'm looking at just my tag. I don't want to fool with these public tags. If you have permissions with public tags, again, I'm going to caution you to be careful that you don't go and do anything with those. Just fool with your tag. I'm only able to see my tag. You're only able to see your tag. Well, let's just clear that up right now. If I come over to shared with, let's say I want to take this tag of students and I want to share it with my partner teacher. If I just click inside the cell that says shared with, a new box appears. So let's say I decide I'm going to go to Mr. Dave, Dr. Dave, and I'm going to say I want to share share my tag with him. So I'm going to go and search his name. I think I passed it up. No, it's not going to. So I'm going to go to Dr. Dave here, add his name, and you can search it. You don't have to scroll through the whole bar. If there's too many, with first names are common with last names, that kind of thing, just switch it around like I did. And I'm going to go add. So now he is a user for my tags. So even though it's a private tag, I only shared it with him. Just a reminder, last click wins. I had the last click. So Dr. Dave would have to come over and refresh his browser at the top left, and then he'd be able to see it. If you want to share it real quick with somebody that's on this call, that's on this training, go take a minute and share it with them.
Just a note, if you are using private tags at your school, you can share them with users at other schools. So this is very useful. For example, at the end of the school year, someone asked a question about, will the middle schools be able to see your tags? The tag will always stay with the kid, but you'll have to share it with a user at another school for them to be able to see that tag on the student's account.
And we'll go look at student profile like Dr. Dave was saying too. You'll be able to see it on that student's profile. So hopefully if you had a chance, you can see pretty quick and easy to share. Okay, yep, let's back up. So I'm going to close out. So let's say we've gone through our filtering. We know we can get through it through data. Come to your Launchpad, your home page, and go to the bottom right where it says Quick Links and choose Student Tag Manager, blue box. Now, again, as a reminder, when that blue box comes up, it's defaulting to the current year. Well, we intentionally saved all these tags last year, and that was because we also used last year's data. So you want to come over to the top toward the left and go to 21-22 data. That's where I will see my 35 students, and I shared it with Dr. Dave. Who are my 35 students? Just click in that cell, and there's my 35 students. So easy to manage right here. If I need to remove a student off of this tag, it's as easy as just coming in, clicking into the students bar, and removing by hitting this minus. And it removes that student from that tag. If I need to add a tag, let's say I have a new student in my class and I don't want to go search through data, I can come right here, start typing that student's name. I'm in top secret, so I would have to use some numbers here. I'd go in, find that student, I would click them, their name would be in the bar, and I would hit add. So pretty easy to remove or add students right here. I'm going to close out. Again, I shared. If I need to remove Dr. Dave at some point, I can hit remove. If I need to add more people, I can add more people. This is not a public tag, so I created this tag for me. Now, here's something else that we can do with this. Remember, I told you a couple of things. We can change the year, and let's see, change the year, no student showed in any tag. So Julie, you might have accidentally put them in 22-23. So I would back up to 22-23 and see if they're there and look for your tag. And that's okay if that happened. We're just practicing with this. But this part will matter for you, Julie, is it's confusing when you start off in a school year if you're going backwards. You're typically not going to be going backwards. You're going to do that maybe now, because at this moment, all of your data is in last year until things start to come in for this year. So in the beginning of this school year, you're going to be going backwards. As you create tags for 22-23, you don't need to go backwards next year. This is probably the only year for the most part that you're going to have to go backwards a tag. So that's kind of some of the confusion you guys are experiencing, is that we've gone backwards to 21-22. When we save these tags, we went back just to do a quick show. You can stay where you are, don't navigate out. But whenever I went in and I started to save these tags, I had to change this school year. It defaults to the current school year. Most years from this year on, you're not going to do what we're doing where we're having to go backwards. Click the empty box under student, and then it appeared. Okay, so there was a known issue with what Julie's saying, and Kimberly. This is a known issue, and each time we do this, some people have this problem and some don't. If you're not showing a student number in this and you did go back to 21-22, click in it anyway, and it should show your students from there. It shouldn't be happening still. I don't know why it happens for some people and not others. But if you're not seeing a number of students in here and you went back to last year where you did save it, click it, and your students should appear, and then that number would appear in that box. So try that, Julie, if it wasn't the case of you saving it in 22, 23 and you saved it in 21, 22, but it's not showing a number, click in that box anyway, like Julie's saying. That was a known issue, but they I thought have taken care of that. So let me know if you still have problems. And then the last thing I want to show you here with tags, if I come all the way over to the far right, the 3-dot menu, and I click it open, I've got some options here. First of all, if I know that I want to use, say, this group of students, these 35 students I created under 21, 22, that was last year, but I want to bring those students into this year, I can copy to a new school year. That's my second choice. So if I come to copy to school year, I can choose all or just some, whatever students that you want to do. And you would do this at the end of each school year if you're wanting to transfer that tag to the new year. Here's my tag, and I'm going to say, put them into 22, 23 and save. So if I went backwards to 22, 23, I now have those 35 students appearing, where a few minutes ago, I didn't have anything in this box at all. Now, something else I can do, 3-dot menu. Okay, thanks, Julie. I'll let them know it's still an issue for some users. I don't know why, and they did know that there was an issue. I really thought it had been fixed by now. So I'll let them know that there's still an issue with those numbers not appearing in boxes. For now, if you're seeing nothing in those boxes, but you know you have something there, click it and those students should appear from that point on, and it should put a number in that cell. So again, if I go to my tag, I went to backwards a year again, click that 3-dot menu. Let's say I'm going to use this. It's not going to be a delete. I can edit the tag, take off the word delete if I'm really going to use it, rename it, redo the description, change the color. If I had public permission and I did decide to make it a public tag, I can choose that here as well. Don't worry with KPI. And then you would hit save. Michelle, when you say your tag shows in every school year when you set it to 21, 22, do you mean when you go back to 22, 23 it shows, or?
Yeah, it shows when I go to 22, 23, and even when I went to 2019 to 2020, it showed in there too.
Okay, the tag itself will show, but the students shouldn't, because see, I went back to 2021 on my screen.
Okay.
The tag will show, but the students don't live there until you were to actually transfer them into a year. So yeah, because you're on your screen is why it's doing that. You're on your screen,
Okay.
so it's going to show any tags. You're welcome. I'm glad you're asking that question. So it's
Thank
still
you.
going to show it. You're welcome. But it doesn't give you those student numbers. Now, there is an issue, though, just to clarify this too, with Michelle and Julie and Kimberly. There was supposed to be taken care of, but where sometimes we would see there are 35 students here, but the number wasn't showing until I clicked in it and the students appear, and then the number came in the cell. Again, they were supposed to have that fixed, and I haven't been seeing it happen too much, but I will do a report on that. Miss Marquez, is that because did you happen to do it as a private tag by any chance? And yes, it could have to do if you don't have permissions to those students anymore. It could be one of two things. If you didn't do a private tag and you only set it for your own tag, it's not public, it's private. You don't have this box checked, but it's saying you don't have the ability to do it. It could be because those students are no longer at your school. Okay, got it. All right, great questions. I will go back and put those in the parking lot too, because if you're asking, other people might too. So great questions. I'm going to go over to the far right again, click that 3-dot menu. So we talked about edit. We talked about going to a new school year. Obviously, you're going to know what delete tag is. You just delete it. If I hit this, it's going to remind me, are you sure you want to delete? And if I do that by accident, I'm going to, oh no, I don't want to do that. So even if you get to a point to delete something, you're going to get a reminder, and it's going to be this red button saying, okay, are you sure? If you delete a tag, and I need to make this really clear right here. If you delete a tag, if I go to this public tag right here that I did not create and I hit delete, whoever created that tag and wherever those students live, I just messed up that person's work. I just removed all of those students from the system as far as the tag. I did not remove the students. I didn't remove their data, but I removed the combination of what was created for that tag by whoever created it. So be really careful with that higher level permission, because you have the ability to add students to it. You have the ability to edit. You have the ability to delete. So you want to be real careful. Like Dr. Dave said, please don't delete his work, and don't put students in there that don't need to be. And if you happen to have a student, I'm going to use my tag as an example because this could happen and this is okay to do. If I have a student that is in my tag right now, or even in a public tag, but again, it's got to be my student. I want to make that clear. I know what's going on with this student. I know that I don't want that student in that tag anymore. They've tested out, whatever the case is. They don't need to be under that tag. I can come to switch tag. Let's say they need to be in a whole different tag. So I take this student and I say, okay, they're in, say ELL, but they need to be in, they don't need to be in ELL anymore. Whatever the case is, I need this student to come out of this tag. I can switch them to another tag. So if I've got two tags and I know they don't need to be in tag here to the left, they need to be in tag over here to the right, I would choose that tag and then I'd hit save. Now make sure that's where they go, because again, if I just go randomly put this student who I don't even know the name of this student and go put them into this ELL category, if I hit save, that's where that student is now going to be put, and maybe they don't belong there. So what you're doing in tags is intentional. It's that you know that that student needs to be in that tag. They need to be moved. They need to be deleted, whatever it is. But again, careful with your permission. The good news is that if you accidentally delete a tag, you didn't delete the upload issue, but you did delete hours of what someone may have done to put all these students in there, especially when we're talking about 1,900 students, 11,000, almost 1,200 students, 12,000 students. Be really careful with that delete. If you're deleting, it needs to be your tag, just your tag. And if it's a public tag, unless not only have you created the public tag, but if anybody's used that public tag, reach out to them and let them know you're going to delete it if that applies, because they might need to create a tag on their end for that. All MTSS coaches will have the manage public tags and manage user tags permission. Focus and eduClimber share tags. No.
Well,
Dr. Dave?
yes.
Yes. Okay. Sorry.
So we have it set up that, so a lot of the tags that you see here, Ascend Academy, their ELL status, dual enrollment, gifted status, all of those are coming out of Focus, and we're sending those over nightly. So if a student, for example, say gets a social service tag, a pinwheel, put on them in Focus, it'll come over overnight into eduClimber. We are sending back the reading, the tier 2 and tier 3 tags. We are sending from eduClimber to Focus. By eduClimber allows us to download files, and then we're importing it into Focus. So that will not be every single night. We're going to do that at a regular schedule that we haven't determined yet, but we will have those. If you tag the kids in eduClimber in their reading tiers or math tiers or behavior tiers, those will carry back over. None of the other tags will. If you put a kid in ESE, let's say, or you make a new tag, that will not go back to Focus. Just those 6 will go back over.
Thank you for clarifying that, because most school information systems don't bring over tags, so that's good to know. All right, so any questions within that student tag manager and your ability to do some different things with this 3-dot menu? Your copy to a school year, switch tag, delete, edit, any of these. Again, I have to emphasize, be careful with that delete tag unless it's yours. If it's mine, like before I end the session with you all and I'm done with all my trainings, I'll go in and delete this. But let's say I forgot. That's why we put delete, because then Dr. Dave doesn't even have to know who or what. He sees delete, he knows if he's cleaning the system up, he can just go hit delete because it's not anything of value. So that's why if you're playing with this, go ahead and play in it. It's good to do that. That's how you're going to figure it out. Just make sure to label it delete so that it doesn't get confused. All right, I'm going to close out of that box. Just to contrast here, when we go to the bottom right of that screen with quick links and we see user tag manager, just to contrast the difference between user and student, I will show you everything in student. User tag manager is basically a repeat of what we just did. It's just you have less options here. You can choose a different user here, but you're not able to see your students, and you're not able to go in and do the change year or switch group. So everything you can do in that user tag manager, you can do within the student tag. So I just focus on this blue because it's really kind of a double system there. And then the last thing I want to show you is if you will go and click student profile. If you click student profile, go and search your favorite student. Think of one that maybe you have a tag on it too. I need to go and pick one here because I don't have names in front of me. So I want to go pick one here. All right, so I picked a student that I know I put a tag on. Now I want to talk to you just for a minute about tags on the student profile. So I looked up my student, again, all my student demographics here, attendance, which we've talked about in incidents, and then tags. Well, why are none of my assessments here? Because in the top right corner, we're in 22-23. I can still get to historical data by coming to the far right and go into that student's historical data, if there's any there. There it comes. Or I can go back a year. I'm not going to worry with that though. We know we can go backwards and forwards with that data. What I want to focus on here is that student tag tile that has 3 here. If I click this tab for tags, it says 3, but if you notice, there's a lot more than 3. The reason that it only has 3 is because we're only looking at 22-23. We don't want to see students with 199 tags by the time they go from kindergarten to 12th grade, let's say. Because first of all, it's carrying over tags that probably in a lot of cases won't be year to year. Some might be, and some might be only for a portion of those years, not necessarily K through 12. Even if they are, we don't want to build up all those tags. And so it just becomes kind of overwhelming when we see big numbers here. This number always correlates with the year that you have chosen in the top right. If I were to go back here to a year, so I have 2 tags. So it is going to always adjust based on the year that you're looking at. But if I'm a teacher of this student and I click into tags, I know that they have 3 current tags, but what it will allow me to see are all past tags. So here's my 22-23, my 3 tags here. Here's 21-22, 20-21, 19-20. So it allows me to see what tags that student has. And I tagged them in this year and I tagged them in last year. Again, my tag's going to go away. But if I had a tag for me, that's what I'm going to see. I will see any tags, public or private, on that student as I have permission to see. If that student's coming to me new, or let's say I want to add them to my football team and I'm tracking my football team through tags to make sure that they are eligible for each game, because then I can go filter the data. Remember, this is big, different ways to look at this data, just those groups of students. So I can click, or I can just go to add student tag. I can add a student tag straight to this student. And so I can add them to that football team or whatever tag I'm trying to add this one student to. If I click a tag, I can delete them. So I'm going to do my email delete because I know that that's my tag. I know that it's okay for me to delete that. I don't want to delete any tag otherwise. So I hit my email delete and I go to delete. It's going to say, are you sure? And I'm going to say, yep, go ahead and delete. So just that email delete tag was removed from that student. So you still have some options on that editing with the add or delete within the student tag here when I go directly to that student profile. But if I'm looking to do a large amount of students, or if I'm looking to do a whole tag, that's where I want to come to Student Tag Manager on the homepage. And Dr. Dave, I'm going to let you answer that question unless it's different. Katie, permissions for teachers are always going to be the basic ones where they can create a tag within themselves, a private tag for just them, for their view, for their classes. Dr. Dave, is that any different for your district on how it was set up?
Nope, we didn't give teachers any extra permissions. The administrators on your site have tags, permissions, and academic coaches, behavioral coaches, counselors, and school sites. Those are the people who have tags, permissions, teachers, and we're using that interventionist profile for our paraprofessionals and classroom supports. They don't have the tags, permissions either.
Thank you. All right, so again, they'll be able to set up a tag just for their use within their classroom for their students, but they won't be able to add students to a public tag, and they won't be able to create a public tag. All right, any other questions with tags? Any other questions? I'll give you guys a minute to think. You can put it in chat or you can come on. We're going to move to collections. So any other questions? I know tags are big for your district. I know that you guys have something you've got to do within a certain time frame. So please feel free to ask me any questions you have right now. All righty. And let's do this. Let's go to our last portion for today. This won't be too overwhelming, I promise you that. And if you do have questions on tags that come up, don't be afraid to ask me that either. We can either put it in chat or we'll have a few minutes at the end if you have questions for me. This doesn't take too long, so I will leave some time for questions and answers. All right, so let's do this. Let's go ahead and jump into collections now. So collections are going to be a really efficient piece of the software for you to use, especially in some of your roles where you're responsible for sending out information to teachers, or maybe it's with PLCs, faculty meetings, whatever it might be. So this will be kind of helpful for you, and it's a really quick and easy one, but it's just such a neat concept, makes life a little easier. So what we're going to do is understand how to collaborate using collections. We're going to be able to create some collection with different data sets, whether it's a bar graph, an individual student, or if it's a spreadsheet. And we're going to understand how to interact and manage that collection. So again, I'm just going to go over some slides with you here and what are collections, and then I'm going to dig in live with you. So what are we talking about when we talk about collections? Well, it could be that you're working with a particular group for PLCs, and it's say third grade teachers, and you're looking at just a particular portion of your math FSA test. We are able to look at a certain view of that bar graph or a certain view of a data wall, and then we're able to save it, and it saves live, so it's not a static view anymore, and we can share it out kind of like we shared a tag. We can share collections, and then that teacher or that group of teachers will always have that right there in view, and they can watch and monitor those students. Let's say that we're looking to beyond even PLCs. Maybe we're looking at individual students that might need interventions. So I'm a counselor and I'm looking at attendance, and I'm looking at incidents, and maybe some assessments as well with that student. I can save a collection of a certain group of attendance, whether it's low or high, maybe I'm doing rewards for those high. I'm looking to track the low so I can intervene. Same with incidents. I can save collections of just those views of that data as well. And yes, we'll be able to share this to anybody there. So collections will work a lot like that. It's just for the terminology. Collection is just a group of different visualizations that are in eduClimber. And I compared a lot to the word to Pinterest. The pinning is a lot like Pinterest. If you Pinterest, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't, it's okay. I want you to think of it this way. Anytime you save a file on your computer, you save it so that it's always in that particular view for that file, right? So if you alter that document in any way, then you save it. And that's how it's always going to be back, visualized and viewed for your use. And you might save them in folders on your desktop. Same idea here. We're just saving something, but the advantage to saving something in eduClimber, as far as a visualization, is it stays live. So if anything changes or updates, that bar graph or that spreadsheet will always update as well. So it doesn't stay static or flat, I guess you could think of it that way. So if I'm doing, let's use the example of faculty meetings. I want to share to my faculty the latest data on these particular assessments and let them see from my view as a school, how are the students doing? I'd be able to save any of these visualizations into a collection. To create a collection is going to feel exactly like it does for a tag. The only difference now is we're going to be looking for these thumbtacks or pins that are next to anything in our visualization. So if I'm in a bar graph view and I have a pin, I'm going to click that pin. Whether I'm in a spreadsheet, I'm going to click that pin, and it's going to be a two-step process, just like with tags. First box, here's the pin title. You'll want to be a little precise in some degree with your name, because if you have the same view, let's say I have the same spreadsheet for FSA, but I am going to be doing them for different grade levels, then I want to be able to look at those collections pretty easily and know what spreadsheet is for what grade level. So I want to consider that whenever I'm naming them. When we go to create a new one, we're going to get a box again that appears just like we did for tags, and we're going to name it, come back to this box, choose it, and save. So I'll walk through those steps in that process with you. Again, we will be able to filter data and create a chart or a collection on that as well. I'll show you your collection tab and how to go and retrieve that information. And we can even look at another screen that allows us to do some customizations with those collections. So I'll help you to interact and manage those as we get through those. So let's go ahead and jump on in. If you will go back to your Launchpad there. And I want you to go and search for a visualization of something that you may want to share with your teachers, or you may want to share with another teacher or partner, anything that you would want to share out. I want you to think of that so we can make it somewhat intentional here. I'm going to come to that grade tab because, again, you can go to district, but I'm always going to work in grade just because everybody will have that. I'm going to go and conduct my search. So I'll stay here where I'm at, 2122 at Bogey Creek Elementary, 4th grade, 2122. I do not have any filters applied. I do not want any tags. So everything is just a normal wide open search. And let's say I want to go ahead and save this map reading. I'm going to keep it very basic in the beginning. So I want to go and save this map reading by grade. I have a thumbtack. Go choose any one of your data charts. It doesn't matter which one. And I want you to hit the thumbtack. Now, again, it's defaulting to this name because this is the name of this assessment in the background. But it doesn't tell me what grade. So I need to make it a little bit more precise in case I go to 3rd or 5th and I do the same thing. It's going to come up with the same name each time. So I do want to make sure that I take this name and make it a little bit more specific. And you could break it down however you want. it may be a good idea to come up with a system of naming these so that it makes sense to anyone in your school. And this will be by school here. You should be able to share these out with other people if they have access to the information. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. I want you to skip sticky target set for right now. We'll come back to that in a second. And if I click shared collections or selected collection, I don't have any because you guys haven't created any yet. And this is not one of those public versus private here. Everything is just me, but I can share it out. So you shouldn't have anything there to see. So we're going to come to new collection and it's going to work the same way as what we did with tags. So I hit new collection and come up with a collection name. So I'm going to say 4th grade data, whatever you want to call it. You can change that collection color. The collection color only has to do with the folder in collection, so don't worry with that so much. If you're tagging tier 2 and tier 3 students, you're getting into filters. I'm going to go into that in just 1 second. I just want to do a very basic one to set it up first. So I'll show you that next with actually getting into tiers. We're just going to save a general assessment view right now. And then I'm going to hit create. So now once I've created that new collection, here's the name of it. I choose the name and I hit save. I'll do it again because I'm going to run through this a couple of times so it makes sense. Again, a very general view of what I'm trying to save. I want to save this visualization to share out. If I go to the pin, it is my FSA ELA by grade. And actually, yeah, I'm going to keep it the same. I'm not going to even change it yet, Dr. Dave, to those other assessments. I just want to keep it very vague here. Grade 4. If I need to create a new collection, I would hit new collection, come name it, put the color. Once I've done it, it would appear in my drop-down menu for pin to a collection. I click it and hit save. Now I'm going to use this FSA and I'm going to dig a little bit deeper this time. So let's say I want to do what Dr. Dave talked about, and I want to go to ELA grade scores. So now I'm getting a different amount of information. Let's say I even want to go to view performance levels. So choose something where, again, not the tiers yet. We're not going to go do the tags yet. We're just going to look at an assessment and maybe change the visualization of it by either going to your map assessment and saying, let's just do view performance levels, or come into that FSA and choosing a different category here, and then go into view performance levels. And I want to save this to compare it. So again, once I get it the view I want it to be, I'm going to click the pin. Now, because I changed this view from its normal defaulted view, when I click this pin, I'm still going to go ahead and name it what I want to name it. But this time, I'm going to hit sticky target set. Sticky target set is what changes it and holds that view that I've created that's different from the default. I'm going to choose 4th grade data. And I'm going to hit save. If you want to dig into different tags, get that all upload video this. Yes. If you want to go in and choose just those tiers, like I'm sorry, I don't know the name. It's Cheverek on the chat. If I just want to look for certain tiers, Carmen, okay. I can go into filters. So if I'm just looking for the tag, I come to filters, go to demographics, just like we do a normal search. Everything's the same with this. I'm just going to go do a search here. Let's say I'm going to pretend like this is my tier 2 group, whatever tag I want. I choose that tag. Don't forget 2 steps. 1, apply, 2, search. And then here is that different view. So all I'm doing with collections, I don't want this to get confusing for you. All I'm doing in collections is just, what do you want to save? What view do you want to look at? Do you want to look at an assessment? Do you want to look at a data wall? Do you want to look at incidents, attendance? I want you, and I'm just taking you through the first one right now where we're looking at bar graphs, what we did on day one. Just choose anything that you're looking to see, and I'm going to show you where we can save them. That's all we're doing right now. We're taking everything we've learned so far and just saying, you know what? I really like the way that this looks. I want to save this. I want to capture this image. That is all we're doing in collections. We are just saying, I want to save this view. So when I have a faculty meeting tomorrow morning, I don't have to come in here, go into this particular search, go into ELA grade levels, go into view performance bands, and then have it up on the board for everybody to see. I just want to click it. I want it to be ready to go. If I have a tag, like I just did, I filtered, let's say it's that tier 2 or tier 3 student. I go create my tag, go collect it. Here's that tag for those students. I'm going to put here, I'm going to say tag, because I'm just putting that for that title. Go into my collection and save it. I'm not showing you where the collections went yet, so if that's confusing you, don't put that out of your mind for just a minute. We're just going to different searches. Let's say I want the data wall. Come over to the right and click data wall. This is all, again, just searching information. That is all I'm doing so far. I'm just searching the information I've originally searched. So I have 2122 Bogey Creek, nothing changed, 4th grade. I have a filter applied. Say it's that tier 2 student, whatever tag you applied. And I say, you know what? I want to save this view. We're not choosing students here. I'm changing, all I'm doing here is saving the view. I want to see who these students are on a spreadsheet. Anywhere I see this pin, click it. Now for a data wall, it doesn't have a name. It's all of the assessments. So this is where I put 4th grade, and I, again, come up with your way of how you want to name these. 4th grade data wall, whatever you want to title it. If I needed to create a new collection, just like we did that process with tags, we put that name and the color. It's a little bit simpler. And then whenever I choose that drop-down menu, it would be here. These are only yours. This is no one else's. So I would click that collection I want and save it. I want you to think in a more simple way of every time you create a file on your computer in a Word document, you save it, and probably most of you are putting it into a folder. That is all we're doing. We're taking different visuals, whether it's a data wall, a chart, and however we're searching it, however we're choosing to break that information down, I'm just taking it and saving it into a folder. That is all I'm doing. So where did this all go? Where did I put it? Now, hopefully this all brings it together, and I'll review it one more time so it makes sense. I want you to come to your left navigation, and I want you to go to the puzzle piece that says collections. Click that, and if you were able to create a collection, you'll see a folder. If you weren't, because you were watching, I'll run through this again, because this is it. This is the bulk of what we do with collections. So think of this as a folder on my desktop. If you're good at Pinterest, you use Pinterest a lot, it's no different than just saying, every time you see something on Pinterest that you really like and you save into your collection on Pinterest, that's exactly what we're doing in eduClimber. It is no different. Instead of a heart, you got a thumbtack. If you don't do Pinterest, we're just taking some things that we like and saving it into a folder. Instead of it being on our desktop, it's on the screen for eduClimber under collections. This is almost like our desktop. So what did I save? I've got a bar graph. That's what this icon is. The first one, the second one is a spreadsheet. If I click into this tab, here's all of those different things I saved. So now if I have a faculty meeting or I have a PLC and I just want to quickly come in and show, here's that data. Remember the FSA we broke down and we did not only performance bands, but by grade. If you hit sticky target set, it saves it without putting it in that defaulted view. This was the defaulted view. So let's say I'm showing the PLCs, I'm showing a group of teachers, faculty meeting, whatever it is. Maybe it's just for me. I just want to track this. Here's those assessments that I've tracked. Again, if I break it down into something different from its defaulted view like these, I want to hit sticky target set. Here's those tag students. So it's just those that were on a tag versus all students. If I come over to the left and look at data walls, here's that data wall I created. If I had more than one data wall, I would have tabs coming to the right. So you can save other data walls as well in different areas. So hopefully that's making more sense now. So all we did was go in. What do we want to save? What is it that I want to track? Is it incidents? Because I'm looking at, as a counselor, my top 20 students. So I'm going to go and say, okay, my top 20 students, go save that in my collection so I can follow these kids. I went to my collections tab. I went to my folder within collections. And here's all my charts. Here's the one I just added for my top 20 students. Let's see. It's just not populating because I might have picked a different group. I probably didn't save that one. But this is where all of those charts are going to come through. Now, let's say I want to share these out. So here's something that's really important to mention. Let's say for this one here, I'm looking at my FSA ELA by grade 4. I went specifically to those grade scores and I broke it down by performance levels. There's 88 total students in this particular view. I'm going to share this out with some teachers during PLC, but those teachers do not have access to all 88 students. But it's important for me as a coach or interventionist to share this data. I need them to see where all of our students are. So here's a couple of things I can do. I can take and share this particular set of data. So I'm going to share this collection in this case. I'm going to go and choose that person that I want to share it with. So if I decide to share it with Dr. Dave, I'm going to choose him. He would then have access to this. And he would have to refresh his screen, go back, and he would now have it in shared with me. And I'll give you a chance to practice this in a second. So I went to my collection and I just shared it out with Dr. Dave. Now I have some options. If I'm sharing this out with teachers, like I said, they don't have access to all of these students and I don't want them changing anything. Well, I can say Dr. Dave cannot edit this. I love Dr. Dave, but I don't want him to mess up my information. So I'm going to let him see it, but I'm not going to let him change anything as far as the visual goes. So I can choose to let that person edit or not, and I can remove them or I can add more people. So that just means I've shared this out. So if I'm a teacher with this particular view of this bar graph and there's 88 students, but I only teach, say, 20, I'm going to see the visualization. I'm going to see the numbers. I'm going to see the statistics. But if I dig into this bar graph, which is live, I will only see the students that I teach once I start digging in. I will not see all 88 students. So again, the visualization is the same. I can see the visualization regardless of how many students I have because this isn't anything confidential. But if I dig into any parts of this bar graph, if I only teach 20 of these 88, I will only see my 20 students and where they fall. And again, this information stays live. So if I get a new upload of new FSA assessments or whatever the case is, if I'm doing incidents, if I'm doing attendance, every time that information updates, so does this view. All I did was take my search and put it here instead of always having to go in before every meeting, before every faculty, whether it's PLC or faculty meeting, or just for me, if every day I'm tracking this data, I don't have to come to grade, I don't have to search it, and I don't have to try to recreate it. I can do it all here in one view, and this stays live. So charts, data walls, don't worry with smart forms, and we'll do meetings on day 3. So all of this data can be shared out with others, and it's only accessible based on their permissions. Any questions so far before I go one step further? And then I'm going to give you a chance to explore this. All right, let's do this. I want to give you, I'm just going to do 5 minutes for the sake of time, but I do want you to have a chance to play on this. So if it's okay, I'm going to give you 5 minutes in breakout session. If we need to go a few minutes more, that's fine. We'll have the time. But I do want you to go 5 minutes. I'm going to jump into a couple of different sessions just simply to say, do you have questions? Because I feel like you may ask questions there. And let's just plan on 5. If it goes a few minutes more, that's okay. We'll come back together, give you a chance to get in there and play around with it. And then hopefully, if you have more questions, you'll ask me, at the end before we leave. So you should get an invitation to get into those breakout sessions. Just go play in collections, work together. I'll jump in some to answer any questions I can.
Meeting is being recorded.
Okay, Dr. Dave, I got a question for you that only you'll know. It doesn't totally have to do with tags collections, but it kind of does. So they were asking if the interventions that are already created in Focus, if those will be transferred over, or will we create those on day 4?
No, I am in the so I have been given all the interventions by the coordinators of their subject areas, ELA, math, science, and social studies, and I am building them in. Whatever interventions were in Focus, they're there now. Not they're there now. They will be there by the 20th. I've gotten about 30 interventions in of my list of like 240. So they'll all be in there, but if there is an intervention that doesn't show up, you're free to reach out to me and say, hey, we need this particular intervention, but I will be curating that list.
Okay. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. I know, Amber, I think you were asking about that. So hopefully that clarifies that.
We have a document called the decision trees that we have to use in Florida. Our decision trees are in our district MTSS resources team if anyone needs access to them. They are in draft form because we've submitted them to the Office of Just Read Florida, but it takes them about 6 to 8 weeks to review them. So they might make some changes. Usually they don't, but there might be some things we have to change in the future. But otherwise, feel free to start using them to place kids. Someone did accidentally delete my decision trees for elementary. I have restored them. They're back in there now. But you'll find the interventions in there, tier 2 and 3, and I will have them in to the platform before our interventions training on September 20th.
All right, so I do want to clarify this since you just said that someone, and I know it may not have to do with eduClimber even. I have to clarify this because I just want to make sure. I don't want anyone to feel bad if they did it. I don't want it to happen. It's happened to me as a trainer a couple of times when we go into that student tag manager, since we're talking about that deletion with those tags. Sometimes people think that if it's showing up on my screen here, so this is my screen. Well, let's say I'm seeing all these tags and I go, oh, I don't want this to show. I want to clean my page up. This isn't your page. This is the district. So I've had that done in trainings where as quick as I go from one screen to the next, my tag is gone. It's because someone in the group accidentally deleted it when I had public tags. So this is not your screen, just to clarify, because some people like to have it cleaned up. I know I'm one of those people. If you go in and you delete this, this is not deleting it from your screen. This is deleting it from eduClimber. So again, just be super careful unless it is your tag and you are going in and deleting it. Like I'm going to go in right now. I'm going to delete my tag. It's going to say, are you sure you want to delete this tag? And I'm going to say, yes, I want to delete this tag for me. Then my tag goes away and it's gone. There's no getting it back. I have to go recreate it to get it back. And you would have to do it year by year. So I actually did both because I think I deleted it earlier. So be careful with that delete. Always be cautious. That's the only thing I'm going to say up to this point to be cautious with, because you do have that permission. Teachers, they don't have that permission. So there's no worries there. So there's another feature I'm going to just show you, and then we're going to pick up with this on day 3. All I'm going to do here is show you in case you decide you want to play with this. And it's really following the same thing we do with district and grade in class, but it's a different way to search. So here, when I go to grade, I've got these drop-down choices. Everything falls into these drop-downs. If you go to the 4th tab on your Launchpad to the left, and you go to charting, this is a different way to do some of those same searches. So I'm going to choose grade search. It's the same thing as I'm doing here, but if I click grade search, now it's going to go left to right, and it's going to be a little bit more specific. So there's some advantages to doing this. So I'm going to choose last year's data. Same thing. There's nothing new you're learning here. It just looks different. So my year, remember that was over at the far left, and the next choice was school. I'm going to choose Bogey Creek Elementary just because I've been there. Then grade, same thing. Everything's the same. I'll choose 3rd grade. Or let me do 4th just because of map. Here's my filters. If I knew of a tag I want to go and put, I could. Otherwise, if I'm just doing a general search, I can stop there and continue because it's optional with my select filters. So this is all the same except the part about top down, we go left, right. And I'm going to hit next. So my year appears again. Last year, I'm in assessments. If I needed to switch to these others, I could. Let's say I'm looking at just math. I'm going to say just math here. And I go to that map assessment. Here's where it's a little different. Just like we can choose assessment groups from our tab here, what we can't do with the drop down from top to bottom is once we choose an assessment, that's it, we're done. But what this allows us to do is say, I only want to look at a particular sub-skill, or maybe within those sub-skills, certain areas. So maybe I don't want to look at all of them. I just want to look at 2 of them. Maybe in geometry, I only want to look at one thing. You're basically able to create a very customized search here with your assessments. Everything populates to the far right. If I want all windows or just one particular window or 2, everything lets me choose it. And then when I go and do a search, and I don't even know if I created a good search here, so let me go pick a few more things just to be on the safe side. And it's based on that assessment. If you choose things that are not assessed for that grade level, then you're going to get that rocket ship. Other than that, it's exactly the same. From this point on, everything is the same. There's my charts, my data walls. But I do have one other advantage here. Save search. So if I'm in my office and I'm so intently doing what I'm doing and I get called to a classroom and I was right in the middle of doing this very customized search, I can go save. I'm going to put my name because this is just me. This is just my screen now. This is nothing we're going to share out or anything like that. So I'm just going to put the name of that document, save it. And so if I get called out, my screen blinks out and comes back or logs out. If I come here, I'm able to go to saved searches, and here's my saved search. And I can either recreate or finish what I was doing. If I need to delete, 3-dot menu, rename it or delete it. So again, that one I just wanted to show you. I'll pick up with that on day 3. That's where we'll start a review, is with that charting. That way we can kind of talk about collections and tags within it and make it make sense. And so we are finished 5 minutes early, which I know is not huge, but I did want to make sure to answer questions, kind of do a run through, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Dave at this point.
I also want to show them the smart form thing that we showed to the middle and high school people last week, because I know that they will like it. I know it's not part of our schedule, but it's a nice little treat for them.
Yes. Okay, so if you guys are interested in smart forms, it's a really neat feature. I love them. They're a lot of fun. They're not too terribly hard to create, so don't be afraid to go and play with this if you just are really anxious. And remember, anytime you're looking for something, go into that knowledge base and you can look a little further. But if you
Well,
come
actually,
to
Andrea, so let me just say, tags, make sure that you have done your tags by September 30th. Next week, we're going to be talking about Students 3D, and that is personally my preferred way of doing the tags. It's very efficient. So don't worry if you were having some trouble understanding today, don't worry about it. You can wait till next week. I've gone through and done a school already. It took me about 15 minutes to tag every single kid in the school, tier 2 and tier 3 reading and math. So it's a pretty quick process, and I will have office hours that last week to help anyone who's having trouble with it. But other than that, we're going to have this meeting same time next week, same place, same Zoom link. And then Andrea, if you want to cut the recording, then we can show them the tag